Well, speaking of Chicago, it is one of the country's biggest cities, and the situation there continues to deteriorate. The Texas National Guard has now been sent in. Jennie, obviously this is being done to quell those anti-ICE protests, but can you elaborate on the situation that's currently going on there?
Right. So you had the Trump administration say, we need to send in the troops. We need to send in Texas National Guard, Illinois National Guard to go in to provide protection to our ICE agents, to Border Patrol agents who are on the ground, who are really going out to do the job that, this mass deportation plan is. They're out there despite 1,000% uptick in assaults on agents. And they're also seeing, real threats against them. Just recently, the head of this operation, which has been dubbed Midway Blitz, the operation in Chicago and Illinois, the head of that operation for Border Patrol has a bounty placed on his head by a member of the Latin Kings gang in Chicago, a $10,000 bounty. He put that message out on Snapchat, and thankfully, law enforcement has been investigating this and, kept tabs on it. It's the threats that are still emerging that we don't know about that I think the Trump administration is trying to get ahead of, because we've seen things that have turned really deadly and really dangerous for our ICE agents and for Border Patrol agents, including in Dallas, Texas, where an ICE facility was recently the target of a shooting that tragically ended with two detainees being killed. Now, the shooter was wanting to target ICE officers in that facility and had noted that in several different pieces of evidence that he left for investigators to find. So these anti-ICE activists are really acting on their really dangerous beliefs. And the Trump administration is taking that seriously because they don't want to have any blood spilled over this issue.
Look, all of this comes after Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson this week signed executive orders to create ICE-free zones across the sanctuary city. Mayor Johnson said the order was focused on, quote, reining in this out-of-control administration. But Jennie, how is the Trump administration meant to govern when he has one of the biggest cities revolting against him and his agencies?
Right. It's incredible that a sanctuary city leader and that sanctuary state leaders are really doubling down on their protection of illegal immigrant criminals. That's really what they're doing here. Mayor Brandon Johnson is creating these no-go zones for ICE, but that really just shields these illegal immigrant criminals further. He's asking even local businesses to participate in this. So illegal immigrant criminals take note of that, and they know that they'll be shielded by that, which is why under the Biden administration and then under the Trump administration, these illegal immigrant criminals, particularly the gang Tren de Aragua, which the Trump administration is trying to crack down on, flooded to cities like Chicago, where they created footholds for the gang. The Trump administration just raided an apartment complex that the gang was said to have operated out of, and that's kind of their MO. We've seen that in the past in places like Aurora, Colorado, and El Paso, Texas, and they shut it down. And that's exactly what needs to be done to counteract these gangs. Now, the mainstream media will paint these stories as something else, and they focus more on these false narratives that children are being zip tied, that US citizens are being arrested for no reason whatsoever. But they're not showing what's truly happening on the ground, that illegal aliens for years have been protected under these sanctuary leaders. And the Trump administration is actually the one trying to restore safety here and to crack down on these people and to return them back to Venezuela, which, by the way, with these gang members, the Biden administration wasn't able to get Venezuela to accept them. They knew that. So they went to sanctuary cities, one, for protection. They came to America because they knew nothing could be done to remove them. Now that's all changed under Trump.
Jennie, Taer, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Well, poor Greta Thunberg. First, the doom goblin found herself detained in Israel again after trying to deliver aid to Gaza again. Then she gets caught out using a picture of an Israeli hostage, Avatar David, who was starved and held captive by Hamas in its terror tunnels. He still is, for almost 2 years, to illustrate a point she was trying to make about suffering Palestinian prisoners. Well, Donald Trump has now announced that the Swedish activist has anger management issues.
And deporting activists that were traveling to Gaza. Today, Greta Thunberg, for instance, also some...
Well, she's just a troublemaker, you know. I mean, she's no longer into the environment, now she's into this. She's a troublemaker. She has an anger management problem. I think she should see a doctor. She needs anger. If you ever watch her, she's a young person. She's so angry. She's so crazy. Now you can have her. She's just a troublemaker.
Trump may not be a psychologist, but I think most of us can agree his diagnosis is spot on.